7 to 17, when it was just always World War II, World War II. And I started to read for race. I think a lot of young kids, I don't know if that's healthy or not, but I notice a lot of Hillsdale kids that when I've come here, I've taught military history, and I will see students that are 18 and 19, and they will come up to me and say, you mentioned a 20 millimeter gun and a B-29. Now, remember, they were only there for about 6 weeks, and they know the specifications of the plane. It's almost obsessive. They know everything, more than I do. And I remind me, when I was that age, I had that. But I also realized that from those stories, how horrific it was. So when I wrote The Western Way of War, nobody had really written what it was like to fight in the phalanx and how awful it was. So in that book, I talked about people getting terrified as they waited to charge and defecating in their armor or shaking or running away or getting killed or what type of wounds they had. And that was derivative in the ancient world of what John Keegan had done in the face of battle. So I try to always talk about war in the sense that it's the supreme folly in a way. It's necessary sometimes, but essentially you're talking about young people killing themselves. And I wrote 4 or 5 books, Ripples of Battle, about literature and art that comes out of war, carnage and cold. So I was fascinated, but also the horrors of it.
What does war teach us about people and things and civilization?
Well, it warns us about pacifism, and it warns us about the therapeutic nature of the tendency to be a therapeutic. By that I mean, it is so horrific, and it makes no sense logically, that there's always this movement to think we have transcended human nature, and this is barbaric, it's Neanderthal, and we in Britain in 1935 are not going to do this anymore, or in France in 1929 we're not going to do this, or the United States after World War II, this is insane, or after the Vietnam War. And then you must realize that not everybody's on the same page. And if you have this idea that you've mastered human nature, and there's not going to be anybody in the world unlike you that will think, I'm going to take advantage of this nation, or I'm going to do something to this group of people, and I'm going to do it by force of arms. And they're going to get away with it, or they're going to hurt you, or what, because you've decided you've transcended, then you have a moral culpability on your part. And so, as a Churchillian scholar, you know what Churchill said about Stanley Baldwin and not so much Neville Chamberlain, but the French, they get people killed, is what I'm saying, by their morality. And so you have to always realize that deterrence saves lives. That is the expenditure to protect you and your own, and let people know they shouldn't do things. I think there was a great scholar in Australia, Blaney was his name. I met him once, and he said all of war is really based on ignorance. That everybody in this room, if everybody knew how strong each person was physically, they wouldn't say certain things to certain people, or they wouldn't try things. But what happens among nations, the strong nations sometimes don't advertise how strong they are. They give the wrong signal to a Hitler or a Tojo or a Mussolini, and then they do stupid things. And war then is a learning experience. It teaches, that's what Thucydides said, it's a harsh taskmaster, harsh schoolmaster. What it means is that you have to find out something that you should have known from the beginning. So at the end of World War II, 65 million people are dead. September 2nd, 1945, guess what we learned? The Soviet Union and the United States and the British Empire really did have a lot more wherewithal than Germany, fascist Italy, and Tojo. And the U.S. economy was larger than all 6 belligerents, all 5 other belligerents put together. We should have known that in the beginning. We wouldn't have had to go to war. But we didn't. We were isolationist British. You could argue that there were people in the British government that appeased, and then there were people in the Soviet government that collaborated. And that sent the wrong message, that these people were weak when they were not. They were very inherently strong.
So